the Brazen Podcast. I'm here with Caroline Peterson of Not Your Average Gal, an amazing travel blog and sassy copywriting studio where she has made her own lifestyle and livelihood for how many years?
I've been doing it on my own for 2 years now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's
Copywriting for 8.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome. You have like the perfect, you're like right there in the sweet spot of like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not tired. Like, so I'm so excited to talk. Yeah. I'm pumped to chat with you today about your recent move to Hawaii in the middle of the COVID epidemic or pandemic, and also just about how many you've moved a lot throughout the years. You've done a lot of traveling, including solo traveling. And since we're talking about connection this season, I'm really excited to chat with you about our experiences connecting with people and places.
Me too.
And just see what comes up because, you know, I feel like everyone's experience is different, but there's like some universal themes about just connecting with people is always going to be something that you have to actively do. So I'd love to hear about your experience moving and like, especially during the pandemic. I know that's a long story. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. Got some Hawaiian bugs.
Your background does look extremely Hawaiian.
Yeah, it's extra. That's what we were trying to go for when we rented this house, was how can we rub it into everybody's face that we live in Hawaii now? Enter this home. So yeah, we my husband is an emergency physician, and he applied for a job in Hawaii back in January, and they offered him a position, and he signed a contract in February, and then COVID hit, and we were really, really lucky and grateful that the group that he works with still abided by the contract that he signed, because what was going on with a lot of the hospitals in the US is that they were canceling these contracts because they didn't have the revenue that they once did, because their hospitals are now just filled with COVID patients rather than, you know, elective surgeries and things like that. So planning a trip in that 6 months seemed like it just not great, in the sense that, you know, you're worried about everybody that you love getting this terrible disease, my husband getting this, and then, oh yeah, I've got to move 4,500 miles in in July. It went just as a normal move would go, in the sense of, you know, getting rid of most of the things that we can and packing up and it being stressful. But the actual travel day itself definitely was different. Going to, I think we were in 3 different airports, and, you know, wearing masks and making sure people were wearing masks. And it was a long travel day in itself. I think it was like over 20 hours just to get here. We had to go through certain airports because we brought our cat too, and there were only certain airlines that accepted cats. And so in the end, it obviously worked out. You know, we're here, but the day itself was stressful. The weeks leading up to it were stressful too, because we couldn't say goodbye to a lot of people because we weren't allowed to gather in groups. So that was probably one of the tougher parts.
And I can't, every move I've ever done, I can't imagine not being able to say goodbye, like in person, to everyone, because that's a lot of closure, especially when you don't know when you'll be able to like visit again.
Right, go back. Yeah, I mean, there were distant like hugs, you know, like hi, bye. And when the governor in Michigan allowed gatherings of, I think, 10 or more, we were able to say goodbye to some people, but it wasn't how we envisioned the end of, you know, his ER residency. We were hoping to have a big graduation and a big party and, you know, some closure to our Michigan friends and family, but everybody's going through that now. You know, everybody has a loss of celebrating the big things and even the little things. So I'm not alone in that. And that feels kind of, there's some solidarity in that.
Yeah. I noticed something you said in one of your blog posts about kind of like the day-to-day of the adventure. Like you're moving to this beautiful tropical island and people are just like, oh, they're off on this beautiful adventure. And I think people often forget like, there is like kind of the mundane day-to-day and stress of a move, no matter how beautiful the location is.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, add in that we had a 14-day quarantine when we got here and we didn't know anybody. I mean, we knew people through his work that we interviewed with, but, you know, we don't know them too well. And, you know, you signed like an affidavit when you landed that you weren't going to leave your house for 14 days. And you could get an exemption if you're a healthcare worker to rent a car, which we needed because our cars were, you know, on a ship on the way over here. So the kind of the logistics of figuring out like, how do we get food? How do we return the rental car? Who do we call if we have an emergency? And so that felt really isolating for 2 weeks. But it was nice just because we were, you know, in Hawaii and we have a very extra Hawaiian house and we have a great view. So when people would say, you know, you're in Hawaii, you should be fine. Yeah, you're right, we are.
There are perks.
But there are perks, but we're also stuck at home. You know, my trip to the mailbox was like the exciting part of every day for 14 days because we weren't allowed to leave the property. But yeah, I mean, and there's still going to be the mundane things of life wherever you live, you know, and then add in COVID and things being closed and, you know, not being able to do the things that you would like to do, join groups and things like that. That throws in an extra kink, but we're so grateful that we're here because this was a culmination of 13 years of, you know, hard work.
Yeah. And oh, that's wild. I think one of the things about like what you're talking about, like kind of I guess getting into a routine and like the day-to-day stuff, I feel like that almost makes it easier, well, under normal circumstances, maybe not right now, but to connect with people once you have that routine. Because I know when I traveled a whole bunch, I traveled from like country to country for like 6 months at one point, and one of the people I was traveling with, she ran every day no matter where we were, and that was like how she met friends. And like I kind of regret not doing it now, but I mean that she got, you know, it was just like the way to get into the community and become part of like, I guess, the activities of everyday life.
Right. And I'm sure as you've experienced like moving around a bit, once you get into that routine, that's how you meet people. And my routine usually is meeting people, working out, or going to the gym, or here, you know, at the beach here. But you can't do that right now. I mean, I'm not sure the restrictions where you guys are, but you know, right now for us at the beaches are closed except for exercise. You can't just go there and read a book or sit on the beach.
So you can like run, but not.
You can get in the water and swim. You can run around. So at least we have that option. But you know, all state parks are closed. And that is like once you get into that routine of, okay, well, I go to, you know, yoga on Tuesday and I go to the gym on Thursday, and you get in your regular routine of seeing people. That's kind of been taken away. So it's definitely been tougher to connect with people.
It seems like you've been thrown into, I feel like whenever, at least for me, I move to a new place, it's like at first I kind of want to be a tourist. Like I want to go check out all of the parks. I want to find every coffee shop in a 5-mile radius.
Yes.
And so now it's just like you immediately have to fall into it, like you've been here your whole life, and it's just like this is just your routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Instagram has been a savior of finding new places because, you know, I mean, driving around, you don't know what's good, what's not. And so just following like other people who around here who seem to have been here for a while and are connected. And then you can find like the little coffee shops that you're not going to see, you know, from the road. That's been really helpful. We've discovered some good restaurants that are just takeout right now, but you know, eventually we'll get there. The governor allegedly is going to lift the restrictions in the middle of October, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I love that hack of like following people on Instagram who seem to know the area. So
yeah,
like not only do you get to find the places, but now you know a few people who are local, and you can start looking at. I mean, I will absolutely
where they
100% stalk. Like, okay, who follows this person in Dallas, so that I know they're probably in Dallas, and like.
Yeah, and then all those suggested accounts that come out of that, when you start following them, you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is where they go to get books, and this is where they go to get coffee, and that's been helpful rather than actually like, you know, meeting people is social media has a time and place, but the main reason is connection. And that has been helpful in moving during a
I find
pandemic.
that to be like, people shit on social media a lot, but I find when I move somewhere or I'm getting used to a place, Google reviews I don't find to be helpful at all, because they're like angry people or they're tourists or whatever. But like, if somebody's bothering to like consistently post like a good coffee shop, I'm like, okay, they know what they're talking about.
Exactly. And looking for small business owners actually reply to people who do say things, on their accounts that says something to me, like, oh, okay, this is a good place. Like, these are good people. Yeah, exactly.
And plus, then you get to support a small business, which just gives me all warm fuzzies.
I know, especially right now.
Oh, I bet. So what does it look like for you right now to like maintain your friendships like long distance? Because I know now you're kind of on a time zone that very few people are on. So like, no matter which side of the Pacific your friends are on, they're all on a different time zone.
Yeah. And, I naively thought, well, we traveled, so much, and we were in Asia for a lot of our travels, it was easy to maintain communicating with clients and communicating with friends. And that was just because it was a 12-hour difference and you were ahead. Right now, I wake up and I feel like I'm 6 hours behind, because I'm 6 hours behind East Coast. And even though I'm, on the right timeline for my clients, I feel like they emailed me at 3 a.m. my time, and I need to respond, even though they know that, it's nothing urgent, and I can get back to them, when I wake up. But that has been,
it's in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like, I've had to say, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm just going to like write down what I'm going to do, or I'm going to read, or I'm going to do something before I just immediately jump in and go, I'm behind. But, yeah, that has been probably, I underestimated that. And communicating with friends has been okay. I have warned them, like, just put your phone on Do Not Disturb, because I might be texting you at like 9 p.m. my time. And I have my phone on Do Not Disturb until 8 a.m. my time. And I've told them that, like, feel free to text me, and when I get up, I'll see it. And if it's urgent, their call will come through. But I have a weekly Zoom meeting with 3 girlfriends, which has just been sanity saving. And I look forward to that every week, just so I can connect with what they're doing. And, they're not going out and seeing a whole bunch of people either. So even if I am on an island, there is some sort of solidarity with, none of us are like, throwing ragers and like partying, and, we're all kind of in the same boat. But that, I definitely underestimated the time change. But there is a benefit to it, because all the terrible reality TV shows come on at like 3 p.m. here, because we stream everything. So
I would have never thought of that.
So in the middle of my afternoon, I can watch The Real Housewives and then get back to work.
That's the perfect like afternoon nap break.
Exactly.
Like
just
some trash
zone
TV.
out. Absolutely.
That's like the lowest point of my day as far as energy and creativity. So it's like, I'm not going to get anything productive done anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's such a good tip too, about having like kind of being in a weird situation where people might contact you at any time. It sets you up to be really good at setting boundaries and like learning, like, you can't coast, so you have to learn what works for you.
Yeah.
And that's, I learned that after I moved back from Scotland, because I was texting people at 2 a.m. and just being like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
Sorry guys, sorry.
Yeah. And then like, yeah, they're not texting me back because, okay, that's fine.
Right. Totally different time zone. Yeah. I mean, and it's a good practice in life in general, is being able to set those boundaries and have people know, like, you can call me or talk to me anytime. I might not answer because I'm asleep, and if it's an emergency, I will. Yeah, I don't mind. It's like, it's not a big deal. And I've been grateful that people have been really receptive of, me texting in the middle of my night. So it's like the middle of the morning for them.
Yeah. I think something that I've learned from moving a lot, and it sounds like you have too, is that it kind of forces you to be really proactive about like being like, look, these are totally ways to communicate with me. I want to maintain this friendship. So like, let's Zoom, text me anytime. Don't worry about what time it is. Like,
yeah,
I was also naive when I moved to Dallas because the last two places I lived, North Carolina and Scotland, I just fell into my friend groups really easily and found like really deep, like almost immediate, like great, strong friend groups. And so I was like, oh, that's easy. Like I can do it anywhere, clearly. And then
Yeah.
got here, not the case. And then COVID. So I have like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of really close friends, but like there's not that circle. I kind of forgot
I
where I
get
was
it.
going with this train of thought, but I was also like, oh, well, if I can do it in one place, I can clearly do it in another.
Right.
And it's a different community. Places have such different styles.
Yes. Yeah, especially if it's a huge city like Dallas, like that sometimes makes it more difficult than where we currently live. This is one of the smallest cities we've ever lived in. And so everybody already has like their built-in friendships too. So that makes it tougher to break into the groups. And then obviously you can't get together because you can't gather in groups. So yeah, I totally get that. And having to maintain those current friendships you have, especially right now, it takes a little extra work. And with everything else that's going on, my friends who have kids too, like there has to just be this understanding that like, I get it. We're all busy. Like, don't worry if you don't call me back, or don't worry if like you can't do it this week. Because everybody's dealing with an added stress of COVID or back to school or working from home with small children, and offering some kind of grace is
Yeah.
nice.
Although there's been like a silver lining, at least I know you've been working for yourself and so working online for a while, and I have too, but it's like new for a lot of people. And so it's kind of been really nice to see like, oh, well, now that people are working from home more, it's like everyone's a little more understanding of it and like also more
Yes.
proactive. And my
Yes.
friend group in North Carolina now meets online every week, which they had never done before. We used to have
Aww.
like a weekly get together. And so like, oh, that's been great for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry guys, like I feel bad, but also I'm
Right.
really glad you're online now. Like,
Right. And don't you feel in some aspect there's a little bit more respect too for what you do for a living? Because people, maybe this was my own insecurity too, I assume people thought that I just kind of twiddled my thumbs during the day and like, I wasn't being productive. And there's no way you can be productive if you work from home. Like I had a lot of old school bosses at ad agencies who thought that. So now when all of us are kind of shoved into this dome of working from home, they see that you can be productive. And certainly there are other distractions, but that you can get work done. And you don't have that commute. I don't know. I found it funny to see people go, oh, okay. So you do work from home. Like you
okay,
do
you
work.
actually work. I
Yeah.
didn't have that in my personal life, but I did have some bosses who were like that. And it's like, it's more interesting watching like other people's companies be like, oh, wait a minute, people actually meet their guidelines when they work from home, and we don't have to rent $500,000 worth of office space.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what?
And I don't have angry, employees coming in from their hour commute that, was stuck in traffic. And yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And people dealing with migraines because of the fluorescent lights and all that kind of like,
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of benefits. And I also am of the opinion that if somebody is going to be like just dicking around at home, they were dicking around in the office. Like they
Yes.
were.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those people that were never getting work done in the office are doing the same thing at home.
Yeah. And nobody was calling them out there either. I used to have a colleague
Right.
who left at 2:30 every day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like nobody is stopping that, so just let people work from home. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm hoping that there is a shift toward that. I think it's been proven now that you can be productive and happier and have a little bit of balance, a little bit more of a balance working from home.
Yeah. I like both. I do love a WeWork. Like I
Yeah.
love being able to go get in the zone and like, okay, this is my place. I'm gonna drink some of that fancy ass pineapple water and then I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna knock some stuff out. But I do miss that. The
Yeah.
ability to do that.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some camaraderie too,
Mhm.
with working in an office. That was the toughest transition for me, when I left the agency world and went on my own, was just not seeing the people that I love to see and laughing at the silly memes that, we sent through emails, and that you miss that. But there are some, great benefits to working on your own.
Yeah. Have you been able to find a community of like fellow copywriters anywhere that you connect with, or? 'Cause I can't
I
say.
mean, I guess Facebook, there's the Copywriters Club that I
I'm
know
in that as well.
a ton of people are in, and that's fun. Just to see what people are working on, and just to see that you're not alone in having the same questions about like rates or feedback from clients, or and that's good. But no, not other than that. No. How about you?
I had a community for a while of fellow like women business owners, but it kind of, I
Yeah.
mean, it was strong and well, I guess, well used, or like, I guess communities are always kind of like, it seems like they exist for a period of time and they kind of like slowly die, not like in a bad way. It's just they're kind of a focus and they're active. And so I had one for like a year or two. It was a great place to ask questions, and then it kind of died off. So no,
Was that how we met? Was that
I think
through?
so. The Girlfriend Collective.
Yes, yes.
Mhm. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no, I
start
love
following you
that
on
group.
Instagram.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that has been really useful. And in meeting, like I met my business coach through that, and a lot of just really interesting people that have like helped me learn and navigate just different worldviews, and like figuring out like, oh, this is a new perspective I've never seen before. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's one. I mean, I don't love Facebook, but I found that the groups really helped me like see outside my worldview and like connect with
right.
people I never would have otherwise. So
Yeah, there's another group. It's not specific for copywriters, but it's more of a co-writing space. And it's Write Like a Mofo, which I've been involved with for almost a year now. And it's just a space where you get together and uh, co-work online and hold yourself accountable. At the beginning of the session, you say, I want to get X, Y, and Z done. And then there are some coaching sessions where if you need help with writing, anything for your business, there's coach Jacqueline Fish, which I love and admire. She does a great job with keeping the group. Sometimes we have like 12 people in the group, and checks in every half hour, every hour or so, and asks how we're doing. And at the end, we say whether or not we got something finished. And if we didn't, it's not a big deal. It's not a ton of pressure. But that's been not copywriter specific, but that's been good for me just to kind of see other people during the day. And
yeah,
also, if I want to dedicate a couple hours just to Not Your Average Gal business work, that's where I tend to get it done. Otherwise, I just kind of get carried away with my day with client work, and all the back end Not Your Average Gal work doesn't get finished, like writing blogs or posting on social media. And that's where I'll get it done, is in that co-writing group. Sorry, Hawaiian bugs.
it's okay. That is totally fine. You know, that sounds a lot like NaNoWriMo, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I love NaNoWriMo's like city specific groups and also I've discovered there's people on TikTok. I've recently fallen in love with TikTok. Not
Oh,
gonna lie.
yes. Yes.
People who like do co-writing, like they'll live stream, and so they'll like write together on TikTok.
Hmm.
And it's not even November yet. But it's still the NaNoWriMo people, they write all year.
So I did NaNoWriMo last year. And it was, I assume, obviously, because it's supposed to be for novel writing, that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's just, writing a novel. And I didn't even think about it until I joined this Write Like a Mofo group, that it could be anything. I mean, it could be blogs for Not Your Average Gal. So I busted out, I think it was 15 blogs. And I've just been posting them throughout the following year, and so NaNoWriMo is, if you can focus, which is sometimes tough for me, is great. And having that group there doing it with you.
That is taking batching to another level. That's impressive. I've never finished NaNoWriMo. Like I've started it 2 or 3 times, and I've got some projects that I love out of it, but I've never gone all the way through.
I mean, that I think that is the norm. That is not finishing it. I think I started it a couple of years ago, and meh. But doing it with blogs was a heck of a lot easier for me than sitting down and writing, a memoir or a novel. I could just sit down for 2-hour sessions and bust out a blog.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna try. I think I might try that this year with NaNoWriMo.
Yeah. And
Coming
don't
soon.
even set it for like having, I think it's like 50, is it 55,000 words is the typical
I think so.
novel?
So it ends up being like 1,400 a day or something. Right?
Yeah. And so I didn't set my standard to that. It was just try to write as many blogs as I could during the month, you know.
That sounds like a really fun plan.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so now I gotta know, are you reading anything good right now?
um I'm reading, my favorite book of the year was Educated. I don't know if you've read that.
I
A
just downloaded the
memoir.
sample on Kindle.
Oh, so
So
good. That's my favorite so far. Right now I'm reading a novel. It's just kind of like a thriller. It's called Brain Rush. You can't even get it on Amazon anymore. I just like found it in my account. I was like, oh, I downloaded this 4 years ago and yes, I should read it now. But I'm going to start reading Captive Hawaii because there's a really big history here
yeah.
for Native Hawaiians and how the U.S. took over. And that was a book that was recommended to me to give me, you know, a broader history than maybe what we've learned in school. So that's next on my list. How about you?
I'm gonna put a pin in that because I'm very curious and coming back to
Yeah.
that. But I'm finally reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Yes, very
Oh
good.
my
I read that.
gosh. It's mind-blowing. I have to read like one chapter or I guess essay at a time, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit that down for a minute and go take
Yep.
a bath and like think about it.
Yeah, and like just unravel. Yeah, my husband kept saying to me, he was like, why are you, I was like highlighting in bed at night, like highlighting this book. And I was like,
Yes.
this is not necessarily like a go to bed book. Like this is like this, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna digest this, and you know, it's not a fictional book where you just kind of fall asleep to. And
I was doing the
yeah.
same thing. Just like laying in bed and just like, oh,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was like, what's wrong? But no,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good.
Have you finished it?
No, I am about a third of the way through.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm still very much enjoying every minute.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to what you're reading or what you're reading next, I love that you're like taking the initiative to learn more about the place that you have landed and the history and like more context. I think that's really cool. Is Hawaii the first place you've like felt like you needed to do that, or?
You know, I somewhat felt like I needed to do that when we were in Florida for med school, but I had been to Florida before as a kid, you know, Disney World and things like that. So I guess I felt like I knew it a little bit more. But there was definitely a completely different culture in Florida, and it was incredibly diverse and wonderful. So learning about that, I learned more about that through the people I worked with and the groups I joined rather than diving into a book. Here, I can't do that. I can't join groups. Otherwise, I would. And I mean, I want to learn how to hula too. So hopefully someday I'll be able to join a group here and do that. But yeah, I felt like that was incredibly important, especially for Hawaii, to be respectful and to understand my role in it coming here and how that might be perceived. And even if, you know, we're here to help, you know, my husband's a physician helping the community, that a lot of times that can be perceived as we're just here to sit on the beach and use all the resources and then, you know, leave in a couple of years, which is what people do sometimes here. And so to learn the history, I thought was really important, just to at the very least, be respectful and cognizant of it.
Yeah, I think that is really hard on communities when people like it is a place where people tend to come for a couple of years and then leave. And
Mm-hmm.
Sterling, where I studied in Scotland, was like that because it's a tiny university town, and so it was like people who just lived there. They'd be like, "Well, we kind of don't bother getting to know people who are only going to be here a couple of years because it's just going to be sad." Like,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
like, cannot blame you at all.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been told. Because it can, from what we've heard, there can be this real isolating feeling being here on an island. And, you know, if you have close connections on the mainland, you can really miss that. And so people don't last as long. I think, you know, my husband and I are adventurous enough that we kind of knew that coming in here, that when we start feeling that, we should be, you know, going home for this is our home now, for the holidays, just to reconnect. But our plan right now is to be here long term. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
But
yeah, we definitely felt this very similar experience to what you're saying with Scotland is people breaking into groups here is tougher because they don't think that you're going to stay here very long just based on what's happened. And I understand that.
Yeah. We've been looking at some places we want to eventually move. Dallas is not our long-term home.
No.
And I was reading about a specific island and some advice for moving there, and people were like, if you move here, because it was some other people who had immigrated, and they were like, don't go home for 2 years. Like, and I was like, that's interesting. They were like, because if you go home, you won't last. Like if your plan is to stay, like dive in first and make it home, and then when you're ready to visit, it will feel like a visit. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting advice. And
that is good advice.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced it, but although it's weird because I am only, I guess, a 6 or 7 hour drive from my family, and I still haven't seen them since Christmas because COVID. So distance is all relative at this point, I think.
Right. But that is really good advice. And it's not like we can really travel anywhere right now anyway. No. So we might be here for 2 years without seeing anyone. But
let us hope travel is safe.
I know. In even traveling here, I felt comfortable with the airlines that we were on. It was as safe as it could be. Obviously, you're putting yourself at risk being on anywhere in groups. But yeah, I mean, traveling for fun, I will see. My answer might be different next month. I don't know.
I feel the same way. I try not to make any plans or make any anything, any opinion that I have. I'm like, there could be new information tomorrow. I have no idea.
Right. If you could travel right now, where would you go?
Oh my gosh, Mexico, New Zealand. I've got so many places. Costa Rica. Yeah, we were going to go to Colorado in October. That's not happening.
Oh no.
And actually I thought, oh well, maybe we'll just go to New Mexico and rent a cabin and not interact with anyone. It turns out you really can't do that. There's quarantines, you can't. It's like Hawaii.
Yep.
So
you have to be a resident there to be able to rent the Airbnb and
something like that. I'm not sure the specifics right now, but yeah. What about you?
Gosh, I would love to go. One of the reasons why we chose Hawaii is because of its proximity to Asia, and also, I loved New Zealand and Australia, and heck, we're halfway there. So God, Japan, I'd love to go back to Japan. And we heard when we moved here that they were going to start letting people from Hawaii come because our numbers were so low, but I don't know if that's accurate anymore. So New Zealand, Australia. I may actually travel in November to see my sister in Oregon. She needs help with a project, but other than that, leisurely, fun vacation travel. I don't know. I mean, the new norm might be getting your COVID test and going to places that allow you to show that you have a negative COVID test, and wearing a mask for however many hours you need to on the plane. That might be the new norm for a little bit. So we'll see.
It is so interesting, evolving what you consider normal, and then I think the hardest thing for me has been changing my mindset from oh, I'm stuck at home and this isn't what I planned for this year and I'm trapped in here, to okay, I'm saving money. I'm getting a lot of work done.
Yes, right.
This is just my monk year of getting writing, and it's a daily choice that I don't always make correctly, but trying has made a big difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're doing your best with it too, because I feel like both you and I, travel was so integral to who I am and my spirit and, you know, what I feel like I do best in the world. And having that taken away was really, really tough. But silver lining was we moved. So now I get to explore a new place, even if, you know, a lot of things are closed down. Like even just driving around it's a new place. It's a new destination, even if it's home. You know, and I'm not necessarily hopping on a plane to go here. It's still new for me. So yeah, I think changing that perspective, it's tough. Adulting is tough.
It's hard. Oh my God. I think, yeah, it sounds like you're probably similar to me in that exploring something new is definitely how I get all of my creativity, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write, like I'm never inspired to write fiction unless I am in some new place. And so it's like, well, that's just not happening for a
Yeah,
while.
right.
So I've I've been taking on like random DIY projects, and I bought paints. Like it's been a year of trying new things, even though I'm not trying new things at all. Like
Right. No, I know. And hobbies that you thought you wouldn't like, or you know, I I started like drawing again, you know, just and the last time I say again, like I had some kind of career in it. I never like it just was something I liked as a kid. So okay, well, yeah, and getting those creative juices flowing so that adds to your business, because for me traveling helped my clients, you know, I was more
100%.
creative, and having that taken away is tough.
Yeah, that has definitely been the biggest learning curve of the year is figuring out ways to feel, because there is no like, it's not like you have a daily amount of creativity that you can apply to your
Right.
work projects. Like my clients, like they're gonna show up whether I'm feeling good or not. So like
Right.
just gotta find it.
Right. And
Don't have a
I
goal.
think that, you know, within the next, I'm going to knock on some wood, within the next 6 months, you know, we should hopefully be able to travel again, like with proper precautions. So we'll see.
I'm hearing promising things about vaccines in the spring and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? That sounds great. I'm not going to dig into it too deeply. I'm going to stay home
Right.
until somebody tells me to get a vaccine or do something. And I'll be like, all right, fine.
Exactly. And, you know, I have the added layer, unfortunately, of my husband working in healthcare. You know, if I go somewhere and come back, you know,
Yeah,
do I quarantine? I probably should. I should probably stay away from him, you know, and the rapid COVID test is going to be my friend if, you know, if I decide to travel. So that has a kink in the layer for sure.
it's definitely a year of learning curves.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, I think we have hit probably a natural stopping point. I have definitely asked all my questions. Thank you
Oh,
so much for
good.
joining me.
No, absolutely. This was really fun. I'm glad
Yeah,
we got to shoot the breeze.
heck yeah. That's my favorite kind of podcast is just casually chatting and seeing what happens. So I'm glad you
Yes.
enjoyed it. I definitely do. And thank
Oh,
you so
good.
much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Bye. I'm not okay.